following the discussions in this community, I think I listened to the PVC for Kenyatta University. I also listened to other senior at the PVC from the University of Eswatini. I think also the National University of Lesotho. What we haven't heard is the voice from our DVC from this university and the College of Humanities. Maybe colleagues, just to bring a little bit of background, that the University of KwaZulu-Natal is organized into 4 colleges. There is the College of Humanities, which is the biggest college in the university. Then we have the College of Agriculture, Engineering and Science. We also have the College of Health Sciences and the College of Law and Management Studies. Professor Mkhize is the Deputy Vice Chancellor and the Head of College of Humanities. This is the college in which the School of Education that initiated this project belongs, and it belongs to the College of Humanities. Professor Mkhize, as the Deputy Vice Chancellor and a scholar, has done a lot in terms of promoting research, especially at the doctoral level. One of the projects, I'm just going to highlight maybe 1 or 2, is that of the doctoral school, which is a new project that is going on at the moment at this university. And he has also done a number of projects that are meant to develop scholarship in the College of Humanities. And the doctoral studies is one of his area of interest, and he has done a lot also in terms of seeking funding so that this project can happen. Then I was hoping, and as the chair is hoping that maybe by now the DVC would be amongst us so that he can address us. With those few words, colleagues, I hope that we have an idea about a little bit about Professor Mkhize, who is our DVC and a person who is actually doing a lot in terms of mentoring us in the College of Humanities. With those few words, Chair, let me hand over back to you, Prof. Khoza.
Thank you so much, Prof. Bengu. Thank you very much for introducing Professor Mkhize, our DVC, and also for highlighting issues that may be important. Since Prof. Mkhize has not joined yet, I think then what we'll do then, because his profile is available online, so we can then Google for him to say Prof. Mkhize, DVC, College of Humanities. So when you do that, then you can see all the projects that he has done, and then what he was going to brief us with today should be part of the project that he has conducted. So we would like to acknowledge that he accepted our invitation. It may be unfortunate that he is busy with other projects, because at the moment we are busy restructuring the university in terms of our schools and colleges. So, but he's aware of this. Let me just check for the last time. Prof. Mkhize, have you joined? Yeah, it looked like he's not here yet, but we are aware that he may join if he can have that few minutes from what he's doing that side. So I think colleagues, then let's continue. Then we can Google Prof Mkhize and then see what he has done, and then what this university is doing as part of his reporting system. Let's move straight then to say welcome, colleagues, to our second PhD or research cohort for this year, 2024. And then our chairperson today will be Dr. Dlamini from Eswatini, who will be taking us through the program for today. And then, yeah, he will give us the idea of where we are going today. Dr. Dlamini, over to you, sir.
Yes, thank you, Prof. Koza. Good afternoon. Yeah, I think it is afternoon for all of us in this space. Good afternoon, colleagues. It's humbling once again to be in this space where we are having yet another webinar for this collaborative program of our universities in Southern Africa and Africa as a whole. It's always interesting to be here. Just like Prof. Bemu has said, it is a good space for learning, and we are excited for those who had this idea of having this space. So today we are treating a very interesting area of study, writing the literature review, and we are happy that we are here and we have professors and other scholars that are assisting us in that aspect. Mine is a very, very straightforward task because I'm just here to direct the proceedings, which I think won't be much. All I can say is to welcome you to this session and hope we'll have an interesting learning time today and also as we progress with the presentations tomorrow. Dr. Walter, are you here, my friend?
I'm here, Prof. I'm here.
Oh, I'm excited then to hear that you are around, Doc, because you are going to be the one that is going to take over just in a few seconds, where you will be introducing our guest speaker, Professor John. So I think without any waste of time, ladies and gentlemen, let me hand over to Dr. Walter Sengai to introduce Prof for us. Thank you.
Thank you, my MC. Let me rush to say I'm humbled to be given this opportunity to introduce someone whom I can say fits in Africa's who is who in terms of education. Let me start by saying all protocol observed. I salute our professors around, the doctors and our all other academic colleagues and our students. My task is very simple because I'm going to try and be very brief in introducing someone whose achievements in education are really monumental. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce Professor John Orodho, who is an professor of research and curriculum studies at the Department of Educational Management, Policy and Curriculum Studies, School of Education, Kenyatta University in Kenya. Prof. Orodho has a Science Upper Class Honors from the University of Nairobi, MEd TVET from Kenyatta University, and a PhD Science Curriculum. Prof. Orodho has taught and successfully supervised over 100 master level theses and 15 doctorate theses in various departments and schools at the university. Besides teaching, Prof. Orodho has not only published several textbooks using seminary universities, but is an accomplished researcher whose findings have been widely disseminated in national and international conferences, journals, and textbooks. Some of his leading textbooks are currently being used by undergraduate, master's, and doctorate students, as well as researchers and policymakers in governments and parastatals in Kenya and other African countries, including Ghana, Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda. Additionally, Prof. Orodho is a renowned international consultant on education, gender, and small and medium enterprise development. He has attracted research funds from the World Bank, the European Union, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation as a principal investigator. He is the current co-chairperson of the Kenyatta University Standing Committee on Competence-Based Education, CBE, Implementation and alternate chair of department and school banking committees at Kenyatta University. The AD Scientific Index for March 2024 ranked Prof. Orodho among the top 100 education scientists in Kenya and 2,000 in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, let me also take this opportunity to say, when I began my PhD studies in 2014, I remember Prof. Orodho's publication, which he published together with Combo. It was my little research Bible, because I kept it so close to me, because it was the first ever research book I used for my PhD studies. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so humbled to introduce to you Prof. John Orodho, our guest speaker. Thank you. Back to you, Dr. MC.
Thank you so much, Doc. And we are very much humbled indeed to be in this space where we have gurus in research and issues of education and other studies stated. Prof, we do not want to waste time, since we have just said the area of writing literature review is one of the most important area when one does studies. I don't want to waste your time, ladies and gentlemen, but my supervisor for PhD was telling me that if the literature review is not fine, it means you have not studied. That is where I realized that the literature review section is very important in research. So without any waste of time, Prof, I think you are in the space. Let us give you the time to go on with the presentation. Thank you, Prof. Are you there, Prof?
Yes, I'm in. I want to.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes, let me mount my presentation.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if you can hear me. Am I audible? Maybe that can be confirmed by the chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prof. Loud and clear.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to meet scholars from various universities in Africa. Specifically, I want to thank the participants from University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa, University of Eswatini in Eswatini, National University of Lesotho in Lesotho, and Kenyatta University in Kenya. Not forgetting other scholars from other institutions. Mine is simple. I was approached and requested to write a section on writing literature review. And as been alluded, literature review is a very important component of scholarship, because most of what you write, either, because I know in this forum, we have supervisors from Africa and also PhD students. And we know that one thing that you will have to do will be to write a thesis, or even before you write a thesis, you'll still write a concept paper. But in that concept paper, we expect that you have to have some literature of some form, because the literature review is the one which will keep you within the academic scholarship in terms of what the dominant tones of your research topic is, and so on. Now, I'm given 30 minutes or so I will rush a bit on the presentation, but hope that we will gain quite a bit from this one. I want to say that the presentation steps, I look at the key definitions and then the general and specific purpose of literature review. Then we look at some types of review, then critical steps in writing review, how we organize literature review, and writing styles, which I'll just mention them, particularly when you are using the APA, and then of course, references. Having said that, then I want to say then that, just a minute, know why this is not going off. Minimize, good. Now, literature review as a concept is actually the art and craft of reading and evaluating research reports. They may not be research reports, but any writings that are relevant to your area of scholarship. But of course, for our master's and PhD students, we normally guide and say that the reading and evaluation of these reports or writings, reports, or journals should be drawn from journals, conferences, and seminal works of high quality. So that is the actual definition of literature review, the art of reading and evaluating, not just reading. Read, evaluate, and then assess, and of course, then document. In short, then you end up with a compilation, a classification, and evaluation of what other researchers have written on a particular topic. Now, in our PhD expectations, sometimes we know when you're writing with a concept paper, it could have, let's say, the 3 basic sections, like the introduction, the literature review section, and the methodology. But even when you're writing the introduction, there is still quite a bit of literature reviewing taking place, because whatever statements that you are using to justify what you are doing must be grounded on some literature. So specifically, normally we see a literature review as a separate section. Like in most universities, we have a whole section of review of related literature in chapter 2, or in some departments where we have more than 5 chapters, then each section that deals with a particular theme has some review to do. So as you can see, therefore, literature review is a very central component of scholarship. And therefore...
Excuse me, Prof.
Yeah.
Prof.
Yes.
Apologies. Sorry for the interruption, Prof.
Yeah.
Yes, I was just thinking of the screen you are sharing, Prof. like the left hand side, you see the left side.
Is
Like,
that okay now?
Yeah, that's better, Prof. I think
Okay.
that one is better. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks. Apologies for the disruptions, Prof.
No, that's okay. Actually, I should have noted that a long time ago, but that's okay. So
Thanks,
therefore, we are saying that
Thanks,
the review calls for extensive reading aimed at getting to the frontier of knowledge on that particular topic. So then, why do you do review? The purpose. I already said why it is contextualized. But we can look at review literature at two positions. First, the general review. It helps to demonstrate your knowledge and understanding of major researches on your particular area, so that when you are writing any bit of your work, you should be grounded into a certain framework, scholars who have said other things around your area. And therefore, it also forms the foundation upon which all future work must be built, so that you discover connections or relationships in previous studies. Yeah, so that is what you do. We shall see when you are looking at, let's say, use in chapter 4. How do you relate literature review when you are reporting your data? You want to see whether the results that you will get can be grounded or can confirm or can differ or can have some way that it relates to other works. Therefore, again, when you are relating, the general purpose of the review is to justify the study by filling gaps that are supposed to be identified. Then specifically, we also want to look at the specifics in terms of literature review. One, it helps you to focus or delimit the research problem. First of all, it delimits by focusing into a manageable area. Sometimes when you start, and particularly the young scholars, when they start, they find that there's a lot to read, but then they need to have a funnel approach where you start from the global, then help them to generate appropriate research questions and hypotheses. Now, again, under that, you can see that it develops appropriate analytical frameworks for analyzing and interpreting data. Now, the second specific objective of literature review is seeking new approaches. Sometimes you have your work and you are not very clear whether you want to go the descriptive, the correlational, the mixed method. So you can look at what other scholars have done, and so it will assist you to understand what works for certain problems and what has been overlooked, so that you see how to fill the gap. It also stimulates new thinking that may result into innovative, creative outcomes, and also provides insights into methods, as I've said, measures that have been used, strategies, even analytical frameworks, the statistics that have been used that could lead to enhanced research designs. Number 3, again, you can see that literature review helps you to sample current opinions. A particular research report, newspaper articles, opinion articles, book reviews contain unique ideas that can be tested through research. So you can see if you have got intensive review of research literature, then you end up sampling a lot of other opinions that can shape the direction of your work. So through literature review, again, one could gain insight to areas that are more critical and even controversial that need to be resolved. So in the context of research, and I think, or a journal paper, and I'm referring specifically to a thesis because this is what our PhD students will eventually end up giving or producing. And then, of course, depending on the university policy, some universities insist that before the thesis is awarded, you should have written a journal paper. So in the context of thesis writing or journal paper, the literature review is very central, because as you review your literature and the findings that you have or you want to report in the thesis, you want to consider that finding in the context of, is it consistent with other sources or scholars? Or is it being confirmed? Does it differ, or there are inconsistencies with other sources? And also, we want to see whether it generates new dimensions to knowledge. Now, there's types of literature. There are various types of literature. In the way it is done, we can think of argumentative review. This is the type of literature review selectively examines the literature to address an argument, an assumption, or a philosophical standpoint. So that is what falls under argumentative review. You argue as you compile and as you assess. For example, in a clan conflict scenario, what are the axiological importance and justification of alarming or of arming or disarming warring communities, you know, when you are in that in the conflict areas. Then again, we have got reviews that fall under integrative reviews. So in the form of integrative reviews, in this context, the reviewer literature generates new frameworks and perspectives on a topic. So it really interweaves, it integrates viewpoints so that you see whether one scholar said this, another one had a different position. Then you as a scholar, you may want also to have your own direction in terms of what it is implying, the implications. Then we have also purely historical reviews, which actually look at examining research throughout time, an issue, starting from the first time it occurred. For example, when you think of the girl-child gender gap, then we could see the trends in the 1970s to 1980s, up to the Beijing conference, the Millennium Development Goals, up to the current SDGs in the 21st century. So you can look at an issue like inclusion. How has it developed over time? And you can review that component in that sense. Now, then there are steps that you can follow in a literature review. I've isolated just a few steps, and I will maybe give time for those who might want to ask questions, or maybe just put their voices into their thinking. The first step when you are reviewing literature is to define your goal and list keywords. This is actually under problem formulation. So as a first scholars, you are starting the literature, write the write-up. You need to skim through the sources, various sources in fact, and identify the broad topic. For example, you could be thinking about education inputs and maybe internal or external efficiency. Then after you do that, you want to look at the keywords in education inputs, the keywords in external or internal efficiency. Then the keywords that are generated from there, you can use search engines. Of course, search engines such as Google Scholar, Scopus search engines, Elsevier search engines, and Orchid. All these have been used to locate data. And this is the more recent way of locating information, the keywords. Otherwise, in the past, we used to have a bibliographic cards where you just jot down the names of the scholar, the year, and the issues being discussed. So you compile very heavy data on cards. But now life has been made easy with the current technology. So we have got Google Scholars, which can help you to search the various keywords. So for example, in a study like in education, like education wastage, you may want to do a study on education wastage, but what are the keywords? What are the keywords around education wastage? So you may want to think of maybe searching for low enrollment, causes and consequences, low promotion from one level to the other, absenteeism, achievement level, survival levels. All these could be like indicators of that education wastage, because you need to know when you are reviewing the literature under that particular topic that you have chosen, the key words must be very well isolated exhaustively so that your review also becomes exhaustive. After you've done that, then number two, you do the actual research. Now, And then you set what we may call the inclusion and exclusion criteria. So in this case, now you have several keywords that you have served from your Google Scholar. Then you review several texts closely related to your topic or theme. Then now you should be able to use that to understand the topic, the top voices, or what I normally call in some of my books, dominant tones in the topic from scholars. So what are the dominant message coming around your topic? So when you isolate that, then you should include the most pertinent publications by those scholars. And also we shall be saying that, or I should say it now, that those publications, you should look at them more of the most recent, because again, some universities have got rules that citations must be not be more than 5 years down the line. So you should also be arranging your citations down, either we shall see how you arrange them, funnel approach from global to local, and also from most recent to the next. Now, so when you are doing that, what are the suggested sources of information? Again, we want to look at peer-reviewed journals, journal articles, maybe those published under Scopus and Elsevier, some books with ISN numbers, empirical studies, reports such as national bureaus. I know many countries have got national working parties, financial reports, professional websites. Again, you can use professional websites to serve your data and search your keywords. In some instances, we have government or even institutions have got their own websites, and those websites can also help you to select the documents and also policy documents and so on. Then after you've done that, then step number 3, you select and access the literature. Remember, you have a lot of literature at the initial stage, but you must sieve it now so that you end up with literature that is very pertinent to what you want to do. So you use the funnel approach from global to smaller units that can easily be accessed. Now you tie the main points to your hypothesis or project statement, so that for each citation, you want to know what are the key issues, the keywords, and so on. Then you establish relevance to the discussion or to your topic. Sometimes many of our scholars are overwhelmed by literature, so they can really want to cite almost any piece of literature they come across. That may have positive and negative impacts, but we want to use the word select and access. So you have to select the most pertinent ones. When you are doing that selection, of course, there are certain questions that are at the back of your mind. You're asking yourself, what topics are being investigated? Who has done the work? And then when you are doing that, you want to describe the issue. And for each one, you need to say which researcher found what on what topic. So what have researchers found about this topic and how did they do so? Their research questions, the design methods of their study, the results they found. Of course, no need to overstate the statistical bits, but just general findings and what these findings tell us about the topic. And of course, as you do that, you should be using connective phrases to link these studies. So by saying in one study, so-and-so investigated and found that, so-and-so also investigated the role of dash in that, so that you are giving literature that is coherent, that defines who the author is, the year, and even the country where the work is done. Because again, for our PhD scholars, we normally want to advise that they should also arrange their literature from the global, then to the national, then to the local context, so that we see that literature in that broader context. Okay, so you have then to assess the quality of the review. Of course, I've already talked about the journals. Then you analyze and synthesize. That's now the time now you want to now compile now, group them together. Citations that have same messages. And that's where sometimes you find that in one sentence, somebody can say, this particular aspect was found, then you name scholars, two of them may be references, who found almost similar findings. So you want to put them into groups so that you just don't say, like Orodho and Combo found X and so on, but you want to say that other scholars from other areas also found the same and so on. So you want to synthesize information so that it's as precise as possible. The key word is that you mention the author's name and publication year in the text. Then you compile comprehensive citations for each entry at the end of the review. Then use a table to summarize citations. You can see that from all that I've said, what is emerging is that literature review is an analytical process. It's an analytical process because you are just not just mentioning authors without critically evaluating what they say and contextualizing what they have said to fit into your statement, into your problem statement. So the first step, of course, as we have said, is that you have to outline the sources by author and year. Then you move to synthesis. You synthesize so that you clarify general agreements or disagreements in the literature that you have generated. Then you move to evaluate and critique major relationships to see whether, in fact, there are major relationships coming up, patterns or trends. Because as an analytical process review, you need to come up with trends in thoughts, trends in findings about ideas and innovations. That's when you can actually now come into your own verdict in terms of whether these patterns and trends are speaking to your problem statement and research questions that you set out to answer. Then again, as you do the process, this analytical process, you should also be finding the gaps in the literature, and you emphasize the importance of that topic so that what are the main issues? They could be either the findings themselves, which can create the gap. They could be the methodological approaches, whether some studies just used maybe descriptive, others used correlational, others used various aspects of mixed methods like sequential, explanatory mixed methods, or explanatory, exploratory, sequential, or embedded, and so on. So what are the gaps in the literature, and how does that read into what you want to do? Does it put you in a picture so that when you are writing your work, you can contextualize it across other scholars? Now, as you do that, you have to summarize what I've said. You can also use a matrix that summarizes the literature review. So you can have an example like Abdi and Orodho 2024, for example, area topic, effect of interclan, then method, descriptive, then sample, you can think of 194. These are just things I put up just at a guess point. It's not real data, just to show you the direction. Then you want to find out, these scholars, what did they find? Conflict, destroy learning inputs and retard learning outcomes, okay. Then there are some readings elsewhere. Can we find other authors also who are saying the same thing? These are findings. Are they similar studies conducted maybe in different contextual areas or circumstances in terms of either flood-prone areas or interclan conflict areas and so on? And what are the uniqueness of the data? Because sometimes there could be some unique findings that you need to be able to chisel out from the literature. So this table is not exhaustive, but at least it gives you a way of looking at authors and the topics they learned, they did, and then the methods they used, and then the sample sizes, whether they large sample, small sample, are they generated using scientific methods, like maybe what is Fisher's formula, Slovene's findings again. Then you go to source 2, 2, 3, and 4, and n, up to n. Then now you can use this table to do summary. You pick out now in your narrative the groups that I was talking about, which authors seem to be agreeing on certain points in the literature, in the review. Now, I'm coming to the end, so we could expect the last section. How do you organize the writing review?
Prof,
I want to, hello? Yes?
sorry to interrupt you again.
Yeah.
I don't know how we are going to handle this one.
Yeah.
I don't know who misinformed the Prof about the time.
That's what?
About the time, Prof. It shouldn't be 30 minutes like you said.
Okay.
You have slotted for 1 hour, 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
then that's
so
fine.
please feel
So
free, Prof.
So I can take my time and explain a few issues.
Yes, the floor is yours, Prof. Feel free.
Oh, very good.
You have been slotted to run up to 20 to 6.
20 minutes to 6.
Yeah, 1740.
Oh, 1740. Okay.
Yes.
That's right. But it's already 1744 here. Oh, 1744.
Yeah.
It's 16 your area. In South Africa, you are 1 hour behind.
Oh, okay. Okay. I see.
Here it is 17.
It was supposed to be 1 hour, 15 minutes, Prof.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, then that's fine. Maybe I could just use the time to put in more clarity.
Yes,
on
Prof,
what we are doing. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yes.
Okay, so now we come to the organization of the literature review. Now, in some instances where we have got a particular chapter, like chapter 2, which is normally devoted to literature review, we need to see how that chapter should be organized when you're doing the review. Of course, we know the introduction bit could be the chapter, the section that you are now introducing in that particular chapter. So you should provide a brief overview of the research problem under the introduction, because now you want to give a literature review citations as a chapter now. Okay, so I'm sure we have already given the individual citations, but now we want to combine them so that they are in a chapter form. So then you have an introduction component. Now, in the introduction component, that's when you provide a brief overview of the research problem. Then introduce the larger subject. I gave an example like maybe education inputs and internal efficiency or external efficiency or something like that, just as a general talk. Then you narrow down. Now you pick out what are these inputs. Are they human resources that you want to look at? Are they methodologies of teaching? Are they what? So you look at the indicators of this. Or if you are looking at wastage, for example, the one you started off with, then now you pick each component of wastage. It can be like a subtopic. Then now depends on that. For some, and in many instances, we use objectives. Say, if you are organizing chapter 2, and you already stated your objectives in chapter 1, if you had, say, 4 objectives, then we want to have at least 4 themes. The first theme should address the first objective. And as you address the first objective, you have to introduce it in such a way that it covers both the independent variable and the dependent variable in that line, without putting the whole objective, but you can just pick the main components of it, like if it is teachers' experience and students' performance. So then you look at just teaching methods and performance, just a small phrase to form the small subtopic. So that's how now you are going to use the subtopic in your analysis. So again, then you are introducing. So you are introducing those sections by objective of the study. Then now you go to the body of the literature. Now, when you go to the body of the literature, again, there could be some guidelines from different institutions, but the general trend, and I'm saying general trend because I've also been an external examiner in some universities, most universities in Africa, even South Africa, I was in one of them, this UNISA, and so on. So I know that there's a section that you talk of the literature. So you can talk of the theoretical literature, and then you talk of the empirical literature. So the conceptual literature now is the one that will talk about the broad issue being investigated. So you want to see a battery of findings and narrations, citations that ground you into the what you call the first section of that body, which is conceptual literature or theoretical literature, if you like. Then after you do that, now you have already sensitized the reader on the general area that you are investigating. So now you go to the empirical literature, empirical literature review. That's now when you organize that by objectives. Objective one, you want to find hard facts, what statistics were found, what messages were there from various scholars. So again, by each objective, we want to see how you organize or group the review findings according to the themes. Remember here I have themes, I'm calling them themes generated from objectives. Sorry. Themes emanating from objectives, but these themes could also have emanated from the analytical questions that I was talking about. For example, I was saying, when you are at topic level, when you are at this point, you are defining the topic, you want to describe the general sense. That is now the general sense, the general area, the problem area. Then you want to look at the key terms. We already talked about that. Then you want to give examples, give an example of the topic or effect or phenomena, so that you help your reader to understand what you are talking about. Sometimes many of our scholars write with an assumption that you already know, but I want the scholars in the room to know that you are informing them through your writing. So you assume that the reader could be having a tabula rasa situation, so you are going to fill up the gap. So you want, for each area, you want to describe the research question, what was there, the design methods of the study, the results they found. No need to report the data, the statistics, as I said, and what finding. Then use of connective phrases. And I've already said that because that's now the area where you are now doing the write-up. So you move on when you are now doing the analytical process. You want to give connecting phrases. So when you are doing the write-up, in one study, so and so investigated the relationship between A and B and found that. So you give that narration. Then maybe in the same paragraph, you can say so and so also investigated the role of in what and found that, so that it's an analytical and systematic reporting. So and so approached this problem from a different angle. You see, now you are saying that they could have been, the angle could have been the methodological angle maybe, and found the following. On the other hand, so and so found contradictory results when the following was done. So you are analyzing and synthesizing the write-up. So what questions remain about this topic remain unanswered? So of course, you need to know at the background of your mind, what are the questions that could be unanswered? What specific questions are you trying to answer? Research question. What are the possible answers? That question, alternatives. Describe the designs again at that point. So again, the general trend is that you start from the big picture. What do we already know about this topic? And how will your study help us to learn more about it? So what question will you try to answer and how? So you are starting from a big picture, and that's why I said earlier on that you are using the funnel approach to that. Okay, so that is how you move on to that. Then you move to that. Then you have to summarize the literature. And then organization, I've already said. So in the body, outside the body, we are just giving information to help us understand it more. So that is now the provision of the background information. You define the concepts and the historiography. Depending again, as I said, there are various types of literature. Is it an argumentative literature? Is it one that is of a historical nature? Then you group the review findings according to the themes and trends. So you want to see emerging issues from the study objectives. Then you summarize individual items with as much detail as merited. As much detail as merited. Because sometimes many people just do a hotchy-potchy job. But of course, you have to make sure that there is the flow. And of course, you have to weave the citations or descriptions of the literature with your analysis and show the reader how this connects to your overall research question. So that connectivity is very important. We want to see how is that weaving. Literature is like weaving. You're like weaving something. So you're weaving knowledge to see how different scholars interconnect at different periods in different countries, in different scenarios. And then as you do that, you point out any methodological flaws, any gaps in the research, or any inconsistencies in theory and findings. That is very important to note in the review. Then we have got a normal section in that same chapter, which is called Summary and Gap Identification. Now, you have given a whole narrative. Maybe literature review could have been done on 12 pages or 20. Some people can have a lot of issues to talk about in the literature review, and also depending on the number of objectives. But either way, you need also to summarize the major significant studies and articles that contribute to your knowledge of the area. So you summarize what important aspects that have come up from different scholars and articles and journals. And again, as I said, it's an art and craft method. It's something that you have to do through systematic, either you start from the global, you come to the national, then you come to the local context. So you are doing that summary, but as you do that, you want to see how the body of knowledge is now being synthesized, maybe just on one page, that you can look at that page and still summarize the 18 pages that you have done up there. As you do this summary, that's when you point out any gaps in the published literature and discuss areas or issues pertinent to future study. So you have to really educate the reader on those aspects. Very important to do that in that scenario. Okay, then after you've done that summary, then you must provide references. We have also noted that many of our scholars, particularly our PhD students, could be overwhelmed by a lot of work in terms of a lot of literature, the volume of literature. But some of them could have done it over time, and so they may not have been listing the full sources. So when it comes to documenting, then they find that they have some missing gaps. Now, the initial old method that I talked about of bibliographic cards, you could keep all those citations on cards, but now we have even programs that can keep the articles when you key them in and keep the citations, and they can actually reproduce the references themselves when you key in the correct mode of doing that. That is the engine, then the reports, the media, and so on. So you must list the journals. Most important is the year, the names of the authors of those books. If they are co-authored books, then again, we want to see how you arrange them alphabetically. And if some authors have more than one book in the same year, then you can now arrange them. You can also arrange them chronologically. And then in the chronological arrangement, in a particular year, maybe you may find another author same books, but then it can be A and B for 2024, for example. Then you go to journals, articles. Again, in journal articles, you have got way of citing the journal articles, the reports. There can be reports of any nature, maybe field reports and so on, or any other media that were referred to during the work. Remember, we have said those steps there. You are citing sources, and so now you want to build the reference list. So it's an essential part of the literature review process that all sourced materials is acknowledged. In fact, if you ask me, if I find a lot of write-up, you have cited a lot of write-up in the body, and I don't see that in the reference list, that could mean maybe some element of plagiarism, because then it means you didn't even know where that citation came from. But if you have been doing the actual process of searching literature and documenting it, then you should have all the sources at your fingertips. So you have to note that. This means that therefore, every citation in the text must appear in the reference and in the correct order. In fact, the APA format shows you exactly how to do that. It should be in a hanging and so on. After you do that, how to use the ampersand instead of and so on. Now, omissions or commissions of errors in referencing are very common, and postgraduate students often lose vital marks in assignments or even in assessment. So we ensure that the literature review will actually confirm that all that I've said has been done, that in fact you accessed the literature using appropriate search engines, and then you recorded it appropriately, and so on. So again, when we talk of the American Psychological Association, the APA format, we normally talk of the latest edition. And so scholars in this room should also be familiar with that APA format. It will show you how to do citations, how to start citation when you are starting by saying, let's say, Zumba 2022 noted the following, then you put, that's a different way. But if you put the citation at the end of the sentence, then it's the same Zumba, comma, the year of publication. So all those things, all those details are listed in the APA format, and scholars in the room are urged to be conversant with that APA format of doing things. Now, it is also recommended that current sources, at least 5 years and below, are given priority. So apart from when probably you are citing a theory that has not been spoken to by other scholars, then we can allow years out of that bracket of 5 years. But in most cases, we know that with the current search engines, you can actually write almost a project with the 2024 citations, because it just gives you a lot of information on the click of a button. So you should therefore note that that is important. Okay. Chairperson, can I pause and maybe ask for reaction and maybe question?
Yes, Prof. Thank you so much, Prof. Orodho, for that informative presentation.
Okay, are there any rejoinders or observations, additions, clarity requests on some area that may come from the people?
I think, Prof, we have lost the chairperson, Dr. Zab. Oh, he's back now. Yeah, because I can see there are two hands already. The first one is Fatima. The second one will be Bill. So let's start with Fatima then to ask the question or comment. Fatima?
Good evening to all the doctors present today and all the lecturers. Thank you very much for this very informative presentation. I have one question, and the question is a request actually. So when I'm writing a literature review, I really struggle to synthesize the information. However I try to phrase it, it ends up sounding like a narration or a description of the previous article, like so-and-so said this. It's not actually critiquing and synthesizing. I've tried to rectify this, I've read up a lot, and for some reason, I just cannot get the hang of the critiquing and synthesizing part. Is there any anything you can suggest that I do to assist and fix this problem? Thank you.
Okay, so that is synthesizing. I remember again, synthesizing or just a sync or just citations depends on the nature of the topic that you're dealing with and the subtopic that you are dealing with. That is the theme that you are dealing with. So you need sometimes synthesize ideas in the sense that you're looking at maybe 3 different scholars have given reports about a particular finding, but the reports may not just be exactly word by word. Some might differ in terms of how the work was done, in terms of methods. Some might differ in terms of sample sizes. Some may differ because of contextual issues. So when you are synthesizing and putting them together, you want to look at those that emerge from, let's say, developed countries, that develop from the African countries, the continental, those that are country specific like Lesotho or Kenya. So that synthesis should come up also more or less as a funnel approach so that there is some order of presentations. The order, and again, you should not mix that citation when you are even reporting it. Say, if you start from the global, then you come to the continental, then to the national, the local. We should not see you going backwards again to the continental and so on. So that narration and synthesis should move down so that as you do the synthesis at continental level, maybe the issues that are being raised at continental level might be slightly different from the issues or perspectives that are emerging from the local contexts and so on. So I don't know if I've really grasped your question, but I think, as I said, literature review is really an art and craft, and you need to master it over time. And it is one that it should be more painful but more enjoyable because it will take more of your mental energy, but at the end of the day, it will serve to show whether you are in the context of global scholars, in the context of the national scholars, and so on. So it serves that purpose, and therefore it requires that patience. Okay, any other reaction?
Thank you very much.
Okay, the second one will be Bill Albert and then followed by Makulu. Okay, let's go with Bill Albert first.
Maybe they should be telling us and the country so that I have some perspective of that, because like in the South African countries, I've also been in most of them, like Lesotho and so on. So I want to know if those issues are coming. I want to know that I can contextualize the answer.
Okay, Prof. I think, yeah, they will do that. Go ahead, Bill, Albert.
Thank you so much, Professor, for the chance to ask my question. So my country is Kenya. Yes, my question is, how much literature review is enough literature review? Yes.
How much is enough literature review? Very technical question. I think the guiding point is that how much of the recent literature do you have? I think for PhD, for example, if I find, can I say 50 citations, that should be enough, but it's not written on a rock anywhere. I think what enough is a technical question. I don't think I can really give an answer to that and say that maybe 100 citations are enough for a thesis. No, but I want to say that the adequacy of that citation should be seen in terms of the issues raised and the current literature that addresses that issue. Unless any other scholar in the room has got a helping hand in terms of that, because this is supposed to be a discussion. Would somebody propose how much is literature? How much literature is enough?
May just come in, Prof. I think you are right to say then it depends. The purpose of the study determine the length of the literature. For example, if university, because universities have policies that are specific to their institutions. For example, if you talk about UKZN, they may say your literature, your thesis should constitute of about 100,000 words. From 100,000 words, then you can start now to quantify how much you should have in the literature, how much you should have in your methodology, in your findings, etc. So you arrange it according to the policy of your university. But it's not really a matter of saying specifically to say it's so much. And the nature of the studies also will vary according to quantitative and qualitative. So paradigms will also come in there to tell you how much you may have. Okay, I think, yeah, but I think, Prof, we have covered it there. Let's go to first Mahulu, and then after that we'll go to, yeah, let's start with Mahulu. Semele will be the third one. Go, Mahulu. Mahulu. It looked like she disappeared. Eh? Okay, let's give another one a chance. Okay, first let's go to Simelelo. Simelelo, I saw your hand was up.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof, for the insightful presentation. I've got one component that I've been grappling with. You know, I wish you could also tell us the importance of your voice when you are writing literature, you know, because sometimes you've got this beautiful idea that you are having and you'd want to put it down. And when you check literature that speaks to this idea that you are having, you let's say you just can't find any, but you'd want to put it down, yet you don't have anything that is backing up because it's coming from you. So how important is having your voice in literature? And also how then to ensure that literature remains focused and relevant to the research questions, yet you are having this personal idea that you are having. So in terms of managing that. Thank you, Prof. I'm in South Africa, by the way. I'm in South Africa, Prof.
Thank you. I think that's a common scenario even in Kenya, but a voice, the component of voice is also very important in the literature review, because when you are actually doing the synthesis, you are actually not using now the words of the authors themselves. It's like you are making a summary, an interpretation of the direction of the dominant tone in that particular citations or group of citations that you are trying to have. So you may be saying, okay, let's look at voice and where it might be, because as I said also earlier, literature review may not just be seen as being in chapter 2. Let's say if you are doing a background to the study, you need to start off with a voice to show, to contextualize yourself in the area that you want to talk about. Then that's the citations start coming in. So you may find that the voice that you have given may be a little bit peripheral and yet should be central to the literature that is going to undergird that section. So the voice should not be just a voice, but a voice that is contextualized around the literature, either the literature that will follow or the literature that is foregoing, so that you are trying to see how that literature speaks to your understanding about the research problem that you are trying to investigate. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yes, Prof. Yes, I think you've answered it well, especially when you say that the voice should not just be a voice, but it should be contextualized. Yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
I think yes, you've covered me, Prof. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, there's also Mary. Mary, you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Prof. I'm just adding that Prof has gotten it, because the voice is normally the interface between the context and the content, because the writer will get the content from the literature review, but will interface it with the content and the context, and the context here is the voice. And Prof has said it's like a story. It is, the voice is what makes literature a story that has some roadmap from the beginning, where you have the introduction, to the end, where you justify the gap. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, a good contribution in that area. Actually, a voice is very important, but sometimes many writings that we do, and this normally for beginning scholars, the budding scholars, normally you want to write a lot, maybe just maybe typed a whole 2 pages typed without a reference. You are giving a voice, no. But let's say that a voice should also not occupy a lot of space. It should actually be like something to entice us to read what is going to follow, so that a voice is trying to be like a trigger to see that you are prepared to read a certain set of literature in a certain direction. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Francis. Francis. Francis, unmute yourself, please. Francis Malenya, unmute yourself first before you talk. Oops. I think she disappeared. Yeah, I can't see. Yeah, because the hand was up, now it has just disappeared. Any other comments, colleagues, from the floor to Prof? Yeah, because Maholo wanted to ask about what Simelelo asked, the voice of the writer. So I think I think wherever she is, she's covered now. It looked like there is no other hand that I can see here. Oh, there's Faith as the hand up. You can go ahead, Faith. Faith, yeah.
Thank you, Prof, for the wonderful presentation. I have a clarification on the type of literature reviews. I didn't hear you talk of a systematic review. So I just wanted a clarification as when you write a systematic review, is there a particular format that you should follow? It depends on your topic, your research, your area. I'm from Kenya.
Okay, all right. In a systematic review, of course, there is a format, really. That format is not really rigorous, but certainly you must start with a topic, because you cannot do a review before you pick the topic to be reviewed. So selecting the topic for a literature becomes very important. So the topic should help you to go to the library, or even help you to surf the journals that you require, because you cannot even think of search engines to help you do keywords before you have the topic or the problematic of the study, for that matter. Remember, most of this work is going to be research-based, and one of the messages that we pass across in literature, in research methodology or research methods, is that without a problem, there can be no study. So you must start from a problem. What problem is actually constituting your study? What is your research problem? Can you write a topic around it? It is from that topic that now we'll start looking at the keywords around that topic. And then it will help you now think about going to the look for the right sources, browse through some websites, as I talked about. Then once you have selected the topic, then your main challenge now is to look at the research questions. So you must now chisel them down into smaller units. Remember, I said that I should use what I'm calling the funnel approach, from the large to small. It's like a sieve. So you're sieving the ideas and so on. So you move from the topic selection, which is the problematic of the study. Then now you move into the let me run you through to those ones that it said, sorry. Okay, so you look at, you define your goal. Of course, the key goals, I've talked about the key areas. So now you look at how you get into the key area through the scholars, the Google Scholar or Scopus search engines, Elsevier search engines, or Orchid. Then now you look at those keywords, and those are now the steps that you are using. So the keywords must be related to your problem area of interest. Then now you move to your research, actual search for that information. So you have to review several texts closely related to your topic or theme. And these topics, eventually they come as a keyword. Then now when you search the keyword in the search engine, it gives you more information on that topic. So that's what gives you the text to be reviewed. Then through that, then you understand the topic voices. What are the topics and the dominant voices, dominant tones that scholars in that area are giving up on that particular topic that you have chosen from a keyword. So you include the most pertinent publications by those authors. Remember, I'm using these words very carefully, pertinent publications, because again, when you search from the Google Scholar, the amount of literature that you can get can be overwhelming. And so you must be able to select those that are pertinent and those that are more current and those that are likely to answer your research problem or your research questions. and so on. So again, you say a method of doing it. Then I said, you have to know the sources. So which sources are you going to go for? You are going to go for peer-reviewed journal articles. And again, they should be from credible sources of publishers like Scopus, Elsevier, or ISTE, and so on. There should be books with the ISM numbers. Then there should be empirical studies. Empirical studies usually also are reported in the journal themselves, but you can also have empirical studies which are done from researchers like the World Bank, researchers like the European Union, or Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They have got their empirical studies. You can quote that and so on, depending on the area of interest. Then nationally, we normally have reports. Like in Kenya, we have the National Bureau of Statistics, which gives you reports on general survey, health survey, and so on. We have working parties, which give you reports on education or other issues, financial reports, and so on. Then again, professional websites. I've talked about that. Then policy documents and so on. So it's now through there that you now do number 3. So, you see now it's a process moving down. So you move from the topic to the selection, then to the selection of the literature. Then the funnel approach now comes in from global to smaller unit, because you want to reduce the literature without losing the meaning. So that again, you don't just have the number, because sometimes people think that is the number of citations that will set you free. No, it's the quality of that citation that will set you free. Then you tie the main points to your hypothesis or project statement, so that all those points should be contextualized within your objectives or hypothesis. Then you establish relevance to the discussion. You can see it is moving down and down. So right from choice of the topic to the search engine, then now to the selection of that literature to be done, then to the assessing the quality in terms of how convergent, how current, more current information, how does one scholar report or views relate to another scholar views. Think of a review as the development of an argument. It's like you're arguing that this causes that. So is the literature helping you to see the development of that problem? Then now at the last stage is when now you know the analysis, the synthesis, and the writing, the write-up. This is where now you critically now look at the key messages, the methods that were used, any controversies, any agreements, disagreements, any innovations, innovative ideas that are permeating through. Then you mention the author's name and publication, and here in the text, because again, you want to keep track of all the citations. Then you compile comprehensive citations for each entry. That's now what I was calling the references. Then use a table to summarize the citation. And I think I gave you an example of a table like that, which can help you do that type of summary and so on. I don't know if I've answered your question, madam.
Thank. I think she has answered, because she has just shifted her hand. And then let's go to Ture.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you, Prof. Orodho, for the presentation, eye-opening and very helpful. I'm sorry about the noise in the background. I can't control it. I have a question on what this voice is exactly. When you say my voice, are you referring to the analysis after maybe writing that lead study and then supporting studies, then you have to analyze what is coming out? Is that my voice now when I'm analyzing that? Because sometimes I confuse it with having to quote your study again and again, and I noted that it doesn't sound good again if you continue to repeat. It becomes tautology, and it doesn't sound nice when you
you continually refer to your topic or your problem as you try to integrate, as you try not to lose the study in the storytelling. I don't know whether it's clear. That's my first question about the voice. What is it exactly, you know, that that you are referring to? And then number two is this one on looking for literature in the search engines. You find that you find those Francis and Tyler, they want you to pay after you see this very lucrative abstract. You really want to see to read this paper, only to find that it is locked. You can't read it. Is there no other way a person can do to access that kind of papers? Thank you very much, Prof. I think those are my two questions.
Okay.
Sorry, Prof. Before you address her question, you wanted to know where the colleagues are coming from. I think she did not indicate.
Oh, thank you so much, Prof, for that. I had forgotten. I come from Eswatini.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Eswatini
Okay.
side.
Thank you from Eswatini. Okay. I don't know any member of the group, any member of the panel here can put a voice on the voice. Can anybody answer the question of the voice so that we see? I've already talked about the voice, but can somebody say it in a different way so that our lady from Eswatini can have a better understanding of voice in citations?
Okay, it looked like, okay, let me, oh, okay, George seemed to be, okay, you can go ahead, go ahead, George, and then Mary will also respond if you both have responded. Let's start with George.
All right, answer the question about voice. I think this is just my, on top of my head. First of all, I'm from Kenya, Kenyatta University, and yeah, East Africa. So on the voice issue, it's I think it's when you're referring to literature, and then, for instance, let me choose one of the participants here. Say Simon Blake said that, or Simon Blake mentioned this is the problem with Zoom meetings. We have issues with the internet, depending on which area, and blah, 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 and blah. So when you're talking about voice, it's a question of stating what the writer or author said about a particular topic, and then you putting your understanding of the information from the author's perspective, and it has to be in either present participle or past tense in a form of way. It has to be actually past tense because it's something that you've read from the previous years, or from whichever material you're finding it from. So your voice has to state that Simon argues that Zoom is better than Google Meet. And based on my findings, I find that Google Meet is actually better than Zoom. I think that's my interpretation of the voice. And I don't know if it's applicable in other universities, but in Kenyatta University, I'm always asked to use short sentences. I don't know if that's a thing with other universities. Maybe someone can clarify on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, George. Okay.
Thank you very much. Can I make a follow-up, just a little follow-up on what George just said? I think George is talking about interpretation, which is maybe, I don't know if I'm mistaken. So you interpret that which you have read about. Not necessarily basing it on findings, because you haven't analyzed your data. I think it's you are interpreting it the way you think, I guess, but without using your findings because you haven't collected data yet. I get.
Okay, let's go to Mary. Mary.
Thank you. This is Mary Otieno from Kenya, Kenyatta University. I am also strengthening what George has said, but just to add that your voice in literature, in presenting your literature review, is your ability to be able to connect information that you have gotten from previous studies to fit into your study. If, for example, you want to demonstrate the kind of studies that have been done related to a variable or to a particular objective, you may start a sentence that according to ABZ, this is what has been done. However, in as relates to my variable ABCD, it shows that the study did not investigate 1, 2, 3, which my study intends to investigate. I am giving that as an example of maybe identifying a gap within the literature review. And this is both for proposal and even when you are developing your thesis. The only difference is that the thesis will be the past and the proposal will be the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Prof, then back to you.
I'm
Yes.
sorry to come in. I'm sorry. Prof K.
Yeah, okay. Okay, you can
I know
continue.
I was disappearing. I'm
Mafuru, we are
sorry.
back now. All right.
Yes, I am. I decided to use my phone. Yes,
Okay.
I think this issue of the voice is very important because I think with many researchers, we struggle in terms of, especially in the literature review, how do we insert our voice? And because Prof talked about finding the gap. So how do I insert my voice in a way that it doesn't look like I'm preempting the findings? It doesn't look like I'm biased already in terms of what my hypothesis is or what my the English is running away. But in terms of what am I preempting in terms of the findings that I have? What exactly is it? I don't want to be seen to be preempting the findings that I'm supposed to be having when I have my data already, right? So how do I make sure that my voice does not preempt the findings? How do I make sure that my voice does not seem to be biased in terms of the findings that I'm supposed to have when I have my data already? So I think this is what we struggle with, especially as supervisors, in terms of how do I tell my student, okay, so when you insert your voice, maybe talk about the implications and not necessarily what exactly you think in terms of, so when Koza says, when you're using hardware resources, this is what the implications are, and not necessarily saying this is exactly what should be happening when you're using the HW resources. How do you insert your voice in a sense that you're saying, I'm reading the literature that is existing and I want to establish the gap that is there, right? How do you insert your voice in a way that is saying, I'm still leaving room for the fact that I'm yet to collect data or to generate data that will guide me in terms of actually talking to the gap that I've identified for my particular study? So I think that's where we struggle in terms of how do we insert the voice in the literature review, not to preempt the findings that we're supposed to have in our study, especially when we have not collected or generated data. And especially when we're talking about qualitative research, where we're looking at the subjective matter in terms of saying, I still need to allow my participants to actually give me or generate the data to guide me in terms of the findings that I'm supposed to have in my study. I'm hoping that is clear, because the issue of voice is a bit subjective, especially when we come to qualitative research. Thank you, Prof.
Okay. Yeah. I think you forgot to mention the country.
Oh, sorry. Lesotho. I'm from the National University of Lesotho. Yes.
Okay. Yes, Prof. Then.
Yes, that's good. I think we are almost in concurrence that when you are inserting the voice again, you should not make assumptions that can be killer assumptions. You should not also preempt the work before it is done, but you are just looking at the findings and seeing the lacuna in knowledge. So it's that lacuna reporting that is showing your voice at that particular context. And it also gives the aim that you want to make a follow-up to see whether you can address that lacuna in knowledge. So I think we are in concurrence about the voice. But the voice is very important because it has also to emanate from findings and from other sources that have been relevant to that particular issue that you want to make a voice over. Now, that's for level 1. Also, level 2, also you may also start off with a voice so that you can confirm most of it. That normally happens in the background to the study, where now you want to give your voice about effects of interclan conflicts or something like that. And then now you want to look at it in terms of effects, whether they affect their livelihoods and living standards and so on. So again, it depends on how the voice wants to contextualize within the main literature thing. Thank you.
Okay. There's Zime. Zime, you have your hand up. You can go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Prof. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Prof, for the presentation. May I please ask, my question is similar to the one raised by Francis in the chat box, because most institutions suggest that we use literature that is like within the last 5 years. And can I please ask what happens if a student is struggling, if you're struggling to get literature or like relevant literature within the 5 years, which years would it be suggestible to go up to? Would it be advisable to go up to 10 or 15? And also, how does that affect your study? Does it weaken your literature review, or does it have any effect if your literature is not like cut from the current years, if it's too old? Thank you.
Okay, you forgot your country, Zime.
Oh, sorry, I'm from South Africa.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Prof.
Okay, yes. Literature, again, you're talking about how old is old, how current is current literature. You have said it may not be written on a rock, but 5 years is really a good benchmark. Many, even our quality moderators, like if you, in the context of Kenya, the Commission for University Education, like when you're writing even course outlines, they normally say, okay, citations must be at least 5 years or earlier. So 5 years there. But you said, can 10 years do? Yes, 10 years can do for other studies. But again, you can see that if you're reporting something that is out of 10 years, then you can see the obsoleteness of the information coming in. You want to ask yourself questions like, you mean for the last 15 or 10 years, nothing has happened in that area of investigation? Can it be true that those 10 years have elapsed and no scholar, even at whatever level, global, continental, national, has not addressed that issue? I think you can see where we come from when we limit years, because we want our scholars to address, to be more aggressive in finding literature. And I can tell you for free, really, that if you're using journals are there. We have current literature even up to April 2024. You'll get data on that if you're searching properly using appropriate search engines. Okay, I don't know if I've satisfied the, but I know as PhD students, that is an area. But again, I know we are all lecturers have been PhD students before we became lecturers, and we know the problems that they go through. One of them is the time they devote to this type of exercise. But remember what I said when I started talking about literature review. I said it's not just a compilation of findings, but it's a process, an analytical, synthetic process that should be followed. And our scholars want shortcuts. So they just say so mentioned, and said that without giving the intertwining zones of the literature to see how now the voice can come in to reconcile agreements, disagreements, or uniqueness of the finding. Okay.
Okay, so I thank you, Prof, for that clarity. I think then to add on what colleagues have indicated as the contribution is that remember when you write a literature review, you are writing some lines of arguments. So when you write lines of arguments, you need to interpret so that your readers will understand what we have been arguing for. And the way you write, you may have leading studies that will then need to be interpreted for the readers. Or you may start with your voice and then bring in a synthesized studies that are giving the context of what you are writing. So, so the nature of your writing, I'm sure, is something that you would try to master in order to make sure that you follow it through like that. The issue of recent studies, it's really important because remember, if you were to say, you say the limitation of an interview, one-on-one semi-structured interview, then you start to say there's a semi-structured interview is time consuming because you have to go to the participants and sit down with them. But if you refer to a study that was conducted or a book that was written in 2014, yes, we can agree with you in a way. But the moment you talk about our nation right now from 2020, so interviews are better today because you set Zoom and then you don't even have to go to your participants because there are technologies that will help you to do that. So the benefit of using recent studies is that you use that according to the time that you are conducting a study. That's why now we say just try to use avoid dated studies and use recent studies that are not more than 5 years old. And then in the issue of Turo, where she said there are journals or books that you may not access, yet you have Googled for them, or you have gone to Google Scholar, then you have seen them, you have identified them, but you cannot access. So university libraries are the way of accessing those documents. Because if you are registered at that particular university, you need to go to the librarian and then ask them to help you to access those journals because they are accessible or books are accessible through the library. But generally, you may find that there are some limits when you just go to Google Scholar without necessarily going through your university library because you have some benefits when you are registered. So that's one of the issues that I think Turo wanted to know. I saw her hand was up then after I've mentioned it because it was her second question. So I think she's covered now. And I also wish to emphasize the issue of addressing objectives, because Prof indicated a very strong point about make sure that when you write your study or your article, you should address the objectives or research questions that we have already declared. Because where you read a study, you are trying to mark a study, then it has some research questions or objectives. But when you look at the findings are generally, they are not responding or addressing the research questions or the objectives. So that is a challenge that we normally experience. So the other thing then that Prof indicated very well is that in order for you to run, you must first learn to walk. So if I have to mark your thesis, for example, I like to go back to your list of references and first check the style that we have used, if it corresponds with that of your university. If it's a journal, like reviewing a journal, I will have to check if that journal is subscribing to the one that we have used. You see now, if we have not followed the direction of that reference style, that is where I will know that you cannot walk. So if you cannot walk, it may be impossible for you to run. So now you can see now I'm marking with that negative attitude towards what is happening here. Then it will be worse than when I see that the citations are also not according to the prescribed university or journal style of referencing. So how do you solve this problem then? Today we have a software that you can download. They are free. We can download them. We use them to create library. And then whenever we search an article, we take that article straight to the library, to our computer library. So when that is happening, when you cite, it's not going to take, it will take you a second to cite. Because when you cite, for example, if you use EndNote, you have downloaded it, you have created a library, it will be easy. You just click the author that you want to cite, it will generate it, and at the same time, it will send it to your list of referencing. It will arrange them according to the style that you have chosen in your library. So it will be easy. So all those technical issues, you may think that they are minor, but reviewers and examiners, others are sensitive to those issues. Therefore, we need to be aware, like what Prof indicated in his last slide there. Okay, that was my comment there, but I can see the hand again from Mahulu.
Yes, Prof. I just wanted to talk about the issue of where we're saying maybe the university would be saying, look at references from like 5 years and maybe the recent publications. But you know, there are instances where you were talking about scholars. Let's talk about curriculum, where we're saying we want to talk about curriculum and we want to talk about the issue of Kurer. And this is like where we're talking about Pinar and Pinar talking about Kurer. I think the issue of universities saying use 5 years or less then puts students in a dilemma in terms of, okay, so we're talking about the issue of Kurer. How do we deal with that issue where there are scholars who have been talking about this issue way before the 5 years that the university is saying? Let's talk about 5 years and before. How do we talk about Tyler, who is talking about curriculum? How do we talk about Stenhouse? How do we talk about Frere? Yet Frere is way before the 5 years that the university is saying let's talk about the 5 years where we have the studies. How do we incorporate that so that at least our study is talking about everything that has to do with curriculum? And we know that we have satisfied the conceptualization of what curriculum is. Can we maybe talk about that so that our students know exactly how they are supposed to incorporate everything that has to do with curriculum? Thank you, Prof.
Okay, I think let me come in there. I think before Prof comes in as well. From my experience is that when these universities are looking for recent studies, they are saying the majority of studies should be recent studies. But however, you cannot avoid the issues of the lack of Taylor who have done well in the field of curriculum. You may bring them, but there are scholars who have used those theories. For example, the objective model of Taylor has been used by quite a number of scholars. So if he has written that in 1949, but there are studies that were conducted in 2024 using the same model. You may start there and bring Taylor and come, which means take more of those that have critiqued Taylor in order to make sure that you bring recent issues. Another example that I can make as well is that is Schulman. Schulman identified a theory where he said, when you talk about issues of curriculum, you need to talk about curriculum, you need to talk about pedagogy, and then he ended up there. But when other writers started to write, like Moshri and others, they started to identify that when Schulman is saying curriculum, pedagogy, content, so all these other issues of pedagogy, content, they are already part of curriculum. So curriculum should not be identified as one of the principles of the theory. Rather, take technology as the principle of that particular theory, because the whole theory, it's around the curriculum principles, so that you accommodate all these others. So when you cite Schulman, then you should understand that his theory has already been justified and critiqued, and then it has produced what we call TPEC. And then even TPEC, if you look at the old TPEC versus the new TPEC, you'll find that they say that the context was missing there. Now let's bring the context. You see, now the theory was thought to be the theory for example, in 2014 or 2016. But when it comes to 2023, there are those who are saying, no, this thing is missing the context. And you see, that's where recent studies are coming, that you can come from there all the way to where you are today. But basically, what most of the universities are emphasizing is the use recent studies as the majority of those studies, so that you don't theorize your issues using Schulman or Taylor, for example, who wrote his study in 1949. Yet someone has critiqued that theory in 2023. Therefore, bring that Taylor in 1949, but at the same time bring these that are critiquing it. That's how the argument is coming there in terms of recent studies versus dated studies. But it looked like Grace would like to say something before we allow Prof to add.
Yes, my name is
Grace?
Grace from Kenya, Kenyatta University PhD candidate. And you have talked about something to do with library. I didn't get to, sorry, Professor. And so I'm requesting that you a little bit just explain on that issue of having a library, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe I can come in.
Yeah,
Like
come in, Prof.
like in the context of Kenyatta University, for example, we have got a librarian, and that librarian is privy to a lot of documents, and also we have got free resource journals, and some of them are paid for journals, which you can only, when you do search engine, some of them can only give you abstract. But if you want the main document, then you go to the librarian, and our librarian is able to do that for you. If you have not done it before, can access the work for you in that case. In fact, some citations can be got in that format through librarian, the library, because again, it depends on whether these have been subscribed to. There are some that require registration. You must be a member of certain. So there are some conditions, but those ones you can always navigate when you get to the respective countries. They have got their respective policies in that regard. So that should not be a very big issue of accessing the required literature. I don't know if that answers your question.
Sorry, I thought that one I know, thank you. But I was, there's something that Professor talked about that there was a bit.
Let me address it, Grace. I know what you are referring to. Okay, so today we have some forms of software that we use to create libraries in our computers. The one that seems to be popular today is called EndNote. So if you go to Google and then type this word EndNote, that is, it will be NDN, it will be END, which is end. And then you write note NOTE. So EndNote in one word. So what will happen then there? It will show you that here is EndNote software. So if you then want to download it into your computer, you will then look for the section that will say download. Once you download it into your computer, it will ask you to create a library. So how to create a library then? You will take references or sources that you have already used and those that you are still going to use, and then enter them in that library. It will give you some steps on how to add those issues. But if you have a challenge with that, you can, for example, you can email us and then ask us to give you some notes on how to create the library after you have downloaded EndNote. The other one is called Zeture. Zeture is still is using the same thing. There are quite a number of those software that are easy, that will make it easy for you to manage your referencing and references. So, but you do have our emails. If you have, for example, if you have a challenge, you can just indicate to us. We can give it to you.
Okay, how can you get the email?
It's Koza S. Mine is Koza S. But even colleagues from Kenyatta University can give it to you. But it's Koza S at ukzn.ac.za.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Msimelelo. you can go ahead and ask.
Okay. No, Prof, it's not a question, ne? You know, at times people don't use the internet as up to its maximum capacity. For instance, one could probably use also YouTube just to get a sense of how to download or how to go about a particular software. Ne? So, for instance, I use YouTube a lot, especially if I'm struggling with something. Another avenue that one can look into, it's Coursera, as in course, as in COURSERA, Coursera. There, it's an online learning platform where, for instance, if you want to know how to analyze data using Python, using whichever statistical package that is there, you will find some online lessons on how to go about that particular package. So one can probably use YouTube. There is also Coursera. There is LinkedIn Learn, where you learn different things there. For instance, also how to analyze data using SPSS, for instance. You can get all that information there, how to go about, compared to paying a lot of money for someone to do it for you. So there are a lot of software. I will write on the chat box some sites people can use to get a sense of how things are done in whichever statistical package that is there.
Okay.
Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, I think then let's ask Prof now to round off, because I think we have discussed enough information around his presentation, and we have even received some nice supporting documents where we can search for them and then talk to them about that. And Prof will also send me his PowerPoint presentation so that I'll share with all of you, and then we take it from there. And also, we've also recorded this session. You will have a video recording for it, and then you take it from there. Okay, Prof, your last concluding statements now?
Yes, I think my concluding statement, which I can call the carry away messages, is that literature review is very important as a process and as an analytical process. And scholars, particularly our postgraduate students, should be patient, but yet innovative. We have come across so many other, this learning never ends. Even when I was presenting the literature review, I've also learned a lot in terms of other softwares also. And I know other softwares will still come in and so on, particularly those that are dealing with maybe qualitative data analysis. But ideally, what I'm trying to say in a way of summary is that literature is very important, and it is the only vehicle that can move you from your thinking perspective to what others have done, and see how you create a community of scholarship in terms of data, knowledge, skills, and so on. So really, a literature review as a process puts you into frontier of knowledge. And so when you review literature, you realize how much you didn't know about the area you thought you knew. So literature review, therefore, should be taken with the seriousness with which it serves. Note that there are steps which you will get from the PowerPoint when you get it. Those steps should be followed really nearly religiously, but also with modification. But we also know that, of course, for you to do literature, which is what we may call related literature, then that literature that we are reviewing must be contextualized. And that's what we are calling review of related literature, not just any literature. So that should, the contextualization starts from the problematic of the study. So you must have the problem statement or the problem, the writing research question. And then from there, you want now to look at objectives. So you are going to review literature. If you are talking about now that at chapter 2, then you should also be sure that you are doing that by objective and linking the independent and dependent variables. Sometimes when the themes are being isolated in chapter 2, they should read to what the objective is. If the objective were trying to relate an IV to a DV, then that portion should actually chisel out the leading point of the IVDV so that your literature review is contextualized around the objective, which is put into the themes of that objective itself. And then you need to summarize that. You can do it through a table like this one. We want to know that when you are doing the literature review, you want to isolate gaps, because it is in the isolation of gaps that you justify whether the study is worth doing. In fact, if you identify credible, not really credible, but gaps in the literature in the area that you want to do, that gives you a leeway to start moving in that direction with a lot of confidence. And I want to say that at the end of it all, make sure that the reviewing techniques are followed. The citation styles are in tandem with APA expectations, both in the citation, when you are starting a sentence, the author with the year in brackets. When you are ending in the sentence, then it is the whole author plus the year in brackets. You should also be aware when to use the ampersand, the and the ampersand, and so on, and how to actually now generate the references for the reviewed literature. So I want to stop there and thank the organizers very much for giving me the opportunity to talk to scholars from all over Africa. And I know that the presentation might make a difference in the life of our postgraduate students in their quest, in their journey towards writing their thesis. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Prof. And thank you very much for the opportunity that you just gave us, coming here to take your time, almost more than 2 hours, discussing the issues with us. This is really a big contribution that we have made. And also, I would like to say thank you to your university for organizing you and allowing you to come and come to address us today. And with these 4 universities have been working well in terms of organizing strong speakers who can take us through those processes that we require them to take us through, because these 4 universities came together like this. That is University of KwaZulu-Natal, Kenyatta University, University of Eswatini, and then National University of Lesotho. So that was really a big contribution. So we are now like to thank all other universities in Africa that also came through to participate in that discussion that was presented today under the literature review, because I've seen quite a number of universities. I've seen other universities like University of Pretoria, colleagues from there, University of Johannesburg, colleagues from there, University of South Africa, colleagues from there, University of Namibia, colleagues from there, Durban University of Technology, Northwest University, University of Free State. So I can't finish all of them. They are just like that. So in other words, we are saying we are creating a family of scholars where we are looking for one solution that will help us in Africa, so that when we go outside Africa, we should know that we are talking about one voice. We have at least one voice that we can use in dealing with our issues. So Prof, for that, we would like to say thank you, and thank you to your university and all those colleagues who have participated today, because I can't mention one by one. Therefore, I would like to say in one umbrella, thank you very much for participating. So tomorrow then our program is that we will have our students or colleagues who would like to present their work. For example, if we have a paper that you want to present, you want us to critique, you may send me a message. You can email me. I've just sent my email to our chat, which is koza@ukzn. Okay, let me send it so that you'll get it from there. And then you'll be able to use this email when you communicate with us, and then we'll put your name as part of those presenters for tomorrow. UKZN, so it's koza@ukzn.ac.za. So you can then take it from there, from the chat, and then from there you can send me an email to indicate that I would like to present tomorrow. Then I will generate a list for all those who will be presenting tomorrow. It may be our students, it may be our colleagues, because the platform is open for that research development, whether for thesis or whether for papers. So we are opening it like that. So in closing then, colleagues, I would like to ask one member from each of the 3 of the 4 universities that are participating just to give us some concluding statements. So I'm not expecting that Prof. John, who has just presented, will be the one who will carry that statement. Maybe we'll ask Dr. Njia to be the one who will give us the concluding statement in terms of this. And let's start with Kenyatta University. Any concluding word, Prof. or Doc?
Okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Professor Simon, for the opportunity. I'd also like to thank my senior and my colleague, Professor Orodho, for the wonderful presentation that he has made. And I'm sure our students from all the universities who have listened to him, they have benefited a lot, and they'll be able to make use of what they have picked as they work on their literature review. So as Kenyatta University, we are happy to be partners in the webinar series. And our students have been giving testimony that they have picked a lot from this presentation. So I would say that our efforts have not been in vain. When we interact with our students, they are giving testimony that they are picking a lot from these webinars, which is enabling them to make a number of steps in their journey towards their PhD. So we are very grateful, Professor Koza, for the organization and for your university bringing us together so that we can be able to share. And I think today also we have got students from Catholic University of East Africa. So what we have been doing at Kenyatta University, I think students from other universities in Kenya have gotten rid of it, and a few of them approached me whether they could join, and I told them there is no harm, because I think the Zoom platform we are using can accommodate quite a good number. So I think we have got a number of students from Catholic University of East Africa. Maybe wherever they are, they can just lift their hand on the forum. I know there are quite a number from Catholic University of East Africa. And so we are grateful, and we hope that we are going to continue with the series so that our students can get the skills that they need so that they are able to move to the next level. So thank you, and we look forward to seeing the students tomorrow so that they can be able to share what they are doing so that they can get further input. Back to you, Professor Simon.
Yeah, I think Dr. Gia, there, while we are saying there are these colleagues from other universities from your side, I think you may also help me with the their email addresses so that when we invite colleagues, then we include them as part of it. And then we acknowledge it according to that, yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll do that, Prof, yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, from National University of Lesotho. who will give the
I think it will be me,
closing?
Prof.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much for everything. I think what Dr. Singai always says is iron sharpens iron. And that says we learn every day in terms of what research is about. And we come from different school of thoughts and we learn every day from each other. And that says it's not even the platform for the students, but it's also for the supervisors to learn what goes on in terms of research every single day. And I would like to thank our guest speaker today because I learned a lot, and especially in terms of literature review, which is seen as one of the most complex things in terms of research. And so we thank you, Prof, for your presentation, and we learned a lot. And especially I'm talking in terms of the students that we have at the National University of Lesotho. I know that we've learned a lot, and we appreciate the platform, and we appreciate the fact that we've been given an opportunity to be a part of this very insightful platform that you have organized, Prof. K. And so thank you so much for everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, anyone then from University of Eswatini?
Let me take that one, Prof.
Okay, you can go ahead.
Thank you so much to our professors, our doctors, and to my colleagues. On behalf of the University of Eswatini, I want to thank you. Maybe I think I should start by thanking the brains behind this initiative. We really appreciate the people that started this. It is very helpful to us who are, to us students. I know Dr. Makulu said even to them it's helpful, but I think it is more helpful to us. We really appreciate it. It looks like we grow each time we take part in this activity. We also develop some skills, skills that we didn't have, knowledge that we didn't have. And we also appreciate the freedom that we have, just to ask questions and not be shy to say, I will look stupid. We are free. The environment is very welcoming. I would like to appreciate our professors and our doctors for that. The environment is very warm and welcoming. It's not intimidating in such a way that we are scared of asking questions. We can ask the stupidest of all questions, but still feel okay because we are not judged. And I also want to thank Prof. Orodho for the awesome presentation. It was very, very helpful. And I think I'm a better person now than I was when we started. Thank you very much on behalf of our university. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's close with Dr. Shoba from UKZN.
Oh, Prof, you caught me off guard. Good afternoon, colleagues.
Close for us.
Yeah, so I am Makosi Shoba from UKZN and would like to thank colleagues for making informative contributions and also to make this platform available to all of us who are supervising and still growing in the field of supervision. So like Makulu said, we learn every day, and we really appreciate Prof for his presentation. And on behalf of UKZN, would like to say thank you very much. Good evening, colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Colleagues, then let us meet then at tomorrow at 8 o'clock. That is the Southern African time. But let me have the names of those who would like to present so that we can contribute towards what they are doing. Yes. So yeah, I think then we can now say goodbye, good evening for now, and then we'll meet tomorrow.
Take care, Prof.
Thank you, colleague. Thank
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye
Thank you so
now.
much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye. Bye
much.
from Kenya.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.